Okay, we are on to lesson 10, but before we go into lesson 10, I want to give an overview of some of the content that we're going to meet in lesson 10 through lesson 16. These go over all of the different tenses in Greek. So I want to take a step back and, at the risk of making you guys afraid of all this. So I'm going to give an overview of these lessons here and give you a framework for what we are going into. So this is a reminder that there are 3 parts of a verb: the tense, the voice, and the mood. We have covered the voice last chapter, where we covered the middle and passive voice. So here, we have only worked with present tense verbs. So now, the next chapters, we're going to go lesson by lesson through each of these tenses, is the goal. And then later lessons then will hit on different moods of the verb. So every verb has to have all 3 of these, and they can have any of them. So like we have mainly worked with present, active, indicative verbs. We have now just started to see present, middle, indicative, and present, passive, indicative. But note, you can have an aorist, middle, subjunctive verb. You can have a perfect, active, optative verb. Okay, so each verb has each of these parts. Every verb has each 3 of these parts. And so we have covered all of the voice parts, and now we're going to start working our way to covering all of the tense parts. Okay, and something that is important once we start talking about tenses, different tenses, is this idea in Greek of verbal aspect. I shouldn't say Greek. This is a common linguistic thing called verbal aspect. And this refers to the perspective of the speaker on the action of the verb. And so there are 2 main kinds of verbal aspect: a perfective aspect and an imperfective aspect. And then I'm going to say that there's a third one called a combinative aspect, where it puts the 2 together. So an analogy that's often used, this is my crude artwork on Google Slides here to illustrate this, so hopefully you enjoy my helicopter. And this is supposed to be a parade. And this is a person on the sidewalk watching the parade. So pretend that this parade is an action. Okay, the sentence we're going to use for today is eating a sandwich. So this parade represents the action of eating a sandwich. An imperfective aspect is the sidewalk perspective on the action. And so the author is watching the action as it goes by. So the parade is, in the process of eating the sandwich. The action is still going by, and they're looking at it up close at a sidewalk view. Versus the perfective aspect is a helicopter view on the parade. The helicopter can see the beginning and the end of the action. So this would be like, I ate the sandwich. I see the full action, beginning to end, and I'm just making a statement. I ate the sandwich. Okay, so the tenses in Greek can be charted in a way based off of this imperfective and perfective aspect. So the imperfective aspect types are the present and imperfect. The perfective are the future and aorist. And the combinative are the perfect and pluperfect. And there are 2 because there is a primary tense and a secondary tense. And it's roughly, secondary tenses are the past a past tense form, and then the primary is a non-past tense form. So secondary is past tense, primary is non-past. Okay, and I'm using all this like abstract language, and so hopefully a few examples here can help us understand this better. So the present tense here in Greek, we have luo, which we translate I loose. And if we depict this, let me go down. I'm getting this kind of depiction that I'm going to show here from Biblingo. I find it helpful. So the present tense, if we go back to our chart, is in the imperfective aspect. And so I'm going to use this this arrow, double arrow, representing that we're on the sidewalk, we're watching the action as it goes by. The speaker is in the present, and then this blue is the action that they are focusing on or referring to. So I'm going to shorten it here a little bit. So here, if I say, I eat the sandwich, this would be the present tense. The action of eating is going on. I'm eating the sandwich. I eat the sandwich. And the actor, the person speaking, is at the same time as the action going on. So they're referring to the action going on and the speakers at the same time. Okay? Versus if I want to use a secondary tense of this same idea, that would be using the imperfect tense in Greek. And so we would translate this as I was loosing here. So in our diagram, I would say I was eating. Notice that the process of eating is still going on. I was eating. But now it's in the past. And so what changes is how the speaker is referring to the action. So the speaker is ahead of time. It's referring to something in the past, and it's referring to that past event that is imperfective aspect. So it's ongoing still. I was eating the sandwich. Okay? Versus, now let's move to the perfective aspect. In the primary tense, it uses the future, or the future is the perfective aspect primary tense. So I will loose. So let's go to our diagram. Now we're not imperfective. Let me change this. I will eat the sandwich. Okay, so now we have the speaker is referring to an event in the future, but now we are referring to the entirety of an event. So I will eat the sandwich. Okay, talking about the entire event of eating. I will eat the sandwich. I'm going to start and finish eating that sandwich. But it's non-descriptive. It's not during the process. So this is how we would diagram the future. I'm looking ahead to an event in the future where I will eat, perfective aspect, beginning and end is in view, the whole sandwich. Okay? Versus, if I want to change this to the secondary tense, this is called the aorist in Greek. And we translate this as I loosed. So let's diagram this. So we would say in English, I ate the sandwich. So now we just kind of flip these, right? Oops. This is now in the past, and our speaker is referring to something in the past. So the speaker referring to a past event, I ate the sandwich. Right? The event is complete and done in the past, I ate the sandwich. That's the aorist. So notice the difference between, or Greek has two past tenses, the imperfect and the aorist. They're both past tense. The difference between them is in verbal aspect. One is imperfective aspect, I was loosing or I was eating, and one is perfective aspect, I loosed or I ate. Okay, next is the combinative aspect. So let's start with the primary tense, the perfect. I have loosened. So let's go down to our diagram, or I will say, I have eaten the sandwich. Okay, so imagine a mom, or my mom talking to me, and she says, Luke, eat your sandwich. And I tell her, I have eaten my sandwich. Okay, so what is going on here is I have combined the action of a perfective and an imperfective, and I'm going to be sitting here and referring to here. Referring to here. Okay. So, combinative aspect, perfect tense, we are in, this is a hard thing. There's perfective aspect, but then there's also the perfect tense. It's annoying, but this is just how grammars work. So just pay attention to that. So in the perfect tense, I have loosened, or here, I have eaten. I'm referring to a past event. I have eaten the sandwich. Okay? The sandwich is eaten. It's gone. It's done. Right? The sandwich is eaten. That's the perfective part of it. So the sandwich here is eaten. But there are ongoing consequences to that action that I'm referring to now. Right? When my mom says, Luke, eat your sandwich, and I say, I have eaten it, the implication is, Mom, you're wrong, get off my back, because the action that you're requiring me to do is already done. So the present state that I'm in is the sandwich is eaten. The state of the sandwich is already eaten, and it has present consequences that I can respond to my mom about. So that is the perfect aspect. It has both aspects. It has the past event that's complete and done, and then it has the present consequences or the present state of that action. The pluperfect then, the secondary tense, is the past tense form of the perfect, okay? So here we say, I had loosed. So let me go down to the chart here. So we would, in English, say, I had eaten the sandwich. Is like this. Okay? It's the perfect tense, but it's just moved back in the past. So this would be like, imagine me telling you the story about a time when my mom told me to eat the sandwich. I would say, once upon a time, or that was just like yesterday, I was sitting at the table and my mom told me that I should eat my sandwich. And I told her that I had eaten the sandwich. Okay? So what I've done is I'm talking about a past event, and I'm talking about it, I had eaten, is a perfect action that had stative implications in the past. So I'm referring to that state, I had eaten the sandwich, in the past. But it's not necessarily presently applicable right now. So the pluperfect is the perfect tense just moved one step in the past. It's one step removed from the speaker. Okay, So that is all of the tenses in Greek that we're going to learn. So, and I feel like a chart like this is kind of helpful to map them. So we've talked about the present. Your next chapters are going to be over the imperfect. So we're still in the imperfective aspect, but we're just moving to the secondary tense. Remember, secondary tense is a past tense of the different aspect that is involved. And one thing to note is this epsilon at the beginning. Notice how there's no epsilon in these forms, but there is an epsilon in all three of the secondary tense forms. And so the epsilon is like the ed in English. So, jump would be the present tense, and jumped would be the past tense. So this is called an augment, that epsilon at the beginning. The augment alerts you that we're in the past tense. We're in the secondary tenses when you see an augment. So that's kind of a way that you can be alerted to when we're in the secondary tense. So, okay, that's all I got. That is, going back here, those 6 tenses are what we are going to cover in the next, 7 lessons, 10 through 16. And we're just going to walk through each of those, and we are going to show how they change based on the different voice that they're in as well. So, going up here, again, we've learned all of the voices, active, middle, passive. We know the present, and so now what we're going to do is, the next 2 chapters are going to be over the imperfect. But we can't just learn the imperfect active, we have to also learn the imperfect middle and imperfect passive as well. So that's what these next chapters are going to be doing, is they're going to be walking through all these tenses, and we're going to talk about the forms and functions of the future active, middle, and passive, the imperfect active, middle, passive, the aorist active, middle, passive, and so on. So that's what we have to look forward to. So next video, I will talk about lesson 10, which goes into the imperfect.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Bible Toolbox. All of the resources mentioned in this episode are posted on our website, thebibletoolbox.com. There you can also find out more information on how to give and support us. And we have loved all of the encouragement and feedback we've received from you. So thanks so much.